Kevelyn, how are you?
Good. Thank you for having me,
We were
Alexander.
just talking about the impending snowpocalypse, and you're in New York City, so hopefully you don't have to like do too much or go too many places this weekend.
No, and it's funny how things work here. So it snows and while like I live in Westchester, so 2 inches of snow in Westchester is basically nothing here. So you show up to the city and the streets are clean and it's like it never even snowed. So
So
I'll be curious to see how it looks this weekend.
how long does it take you to get into the city then?
But like 45 minutes.
Okay, all right. Well,
It's
Kevelyn,
not too
why
bad.
don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell us what you do, and I'd love to go back to the beginning here, how you kind of got started in this whole thing, and hear kind of how you got to where you are now.
Sure. So I'm a native New Yorker, and I started in Wall Street about over 20 years ago. I started in Wall Street, was there for 4 years, and I realized that while I love numbers, my true passion was being around people.
Okay.
And so I decided that I wanted to get into real estate. And I was like, well, I don't know if I want to be in the property management side, in the sales side, or just kind of in the middle. And what I ended up doing, I went to a small boutique firm in Midtown and I started working there. Lasted about 2 years, but it was a great experience. And the reason I had to leave that firm was because in 2008, when the market crashed,
Mm,
many real estate companies started closing their doors.
okay.
And so some of my agents came to Warburg Realty. And they were like, Kev, you have to come meet the president of the firm. You would love it here. And so I ended up coming to Warburg, and that was 18 years ago, and I never left. I I've done every job you can possibly think of.
Mm,
But ultimately my position was chief operating officer. I was in operations, I dabbled in IT, I pretty much did a little bit of everything.
mm.
And so that was 18 years ago. Today, I am the regional vice president for Coldwell Banker Warburg because we were acquired by Coldwell Banker 4 years ago. And as you've probably heard the news, it is now Compass International
I
Holdings.
don't know if I did know that. So what is
So,
Compass? Is that another company that acquired them?
so Compass is a real estate company that now has acquired Anywhere Real Estate. And under the Anywhere umbrella, there's Sotheby's, Corcoran, Century 21, Better Homes, Coldwell Banker.
Mm,
They're all under the same umbrella. So now Compass, combined with us, we have 340,000 agents.
geez. Um, okay, take me back. Why? How did you get to Wall Street? I know you said you're natively from New York, so was it just like, yeah, it
hmm
looks like you can make money on this thing. Like, let me join here.
I have a business degree
Okay,
and is really good with numbers. And the opportunity came to work for a hedge fund. I was really young,
so you're probably
so
just
this
out of
was
college thing. Yep.
and this was amazing, but I was crunching numbers all day long. And and I'm really a social butterfly. Like I'm really a people person, but in Wall Street you kind of like stick to yourself and it's really about crunching those numbers. And I came in as a junior analyst.
Hmm.
And so I at one point I was like, I don't know if I want to keep doing this. My days are long. My life feels, and sorry to say, like just I feel like my soul was being sucked out of my body.
Hmm.
And I just feel like I needed a little bit more. And then I was just like, I it was great because there's something about Wall Street that just teaches you how to have a strong opinion about things, but also a backbone,
Mm.
right? It could be very cold, and so I wanted something a little bit more warm,
Can you
and I
can you
thought that I could get that in real estate.
can you say more about that? How it teaches you to have a backbone and an opinion?
Yeah, there's no sugarcoating. Nobody really cares about your feelings. That no one is there to be warm and fuzzy,
Hmm.
right? It's cut and dry. It is a Shark Tank.
Mm. So everyone's there because they're like, "Hey, look, we have this implicit agreement. We're here to make money. Like, we're not here
We're
to
here.
like make friends or get married or any of those things."
Right. Like, we're not here to chit chat with you. We're here to like make sure that these numbers add up, make sure that they're correct. And if they're not, all hell's going to break loose. And you just need to be ready for that.
Mm,
But you don't want to get to that point. So you have to make sure that your numbers are solid,
mm,
right? The quality of your work is the most important thing. And look, it's the same now, but it's different. You're in a relationships based business, so there's a lot more emotions that comes to play. In Wall Street, no one really cares about your feelings.
mm. I guess in some ways that's good that it's like, look, we all understand the operating system that we're going with here. And it's not like I want to make sure that Kevelyn, feels good in her workspace and she understands her career development paths. Like, no, like I'm not concerned about that. Like I'm concerned about like find the next deal, make the money, move on. Which, in some ways it's sort of beautiful because it's very open and honest with what the goal is.
No, it is. And once you understand that, like for me, the first 6 months, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I could do this. And I'm not gonna lie, there were times I was in the bathroom just kind of like in my feelings. But then it was just I got used to it. And when I left Wall Street, the crazy thing, when I left Wall Street and I came into real estate and I found myself around people that were highly emotional, I was sort of like, well, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Right. So I had to adjust again to something completely different. So and look, I've learned throughout my career that the most important skill you can develop for yourself is learning how to adapt.
Mm, mm,
And so I had to adapt first to an environment that was strictly just numbers and that felt cold, no emotions. And then I had to adapt again to a completely different industry where the numbers mattered, but it wasn't the most important thing that you had to focus on. And so, because look, in real estate, you're building trust.
mhm,
It's again a relationships business. And so you're trying to build trust with people so they could work with you. And Wall Street is not like that. They're sort of like, Here are the facts. These are the numbers, right? They all work out. And let's get the business, let's get this done
mm. So is it fair to say that Wall Street is less of a relationship based like business?
for sure.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm. So what was the final kind of straw that broke the camel's back that had you decide like, "Hey, I'm just not gonna do this hedge fund Wall Street"? Because you could have ostensibly moved to a different area in Wall Street, right? Or was it just the whole vibe that you're like, "It's just not my vibe"?
I just, for me, it was feeling, when you have that feeling where you're getting to work and you kind of don't feel like you belong anymore.
Mm,
I felt like I started feeling like I don't belong anymore.
I see.
And the reason I didn't belong is because I had this feeling like I wanted more and I wanted more excitement. And it wasn't, while numbers did excite me, it wasn't the thing that was doing it for me at the time.
Mm. Do you
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm appreciative for all the things that I learned in Wall Street. I mean, it teaches you grit. It teaches you I can take a beating.
Mhm.
After working, I felt like after working in Wall Street, I can take a beating.
Right.
There's very little things that phase me.
Mhm. Is it, true that kinda Wall Street is like you get there at 6 a.m. and you're there till 6 or 7 or 8 p.m., like, and that's just sort of the everyday grind. You're there before the market, you're there, watching the Asian markets at night. This is what I learned off of the TV show industry, basically.
That is true. That is true. I was there at 6 o'clock, 6:30. And I worked for a religious company. So
A
they
religious
on
hedge fund?
Fridays, yeah,
I didn't know those
yeah.
existed.
It does, it's still there. And then on Fridays, we would leave at 1 in the afternoon because they had to be home before sundown.
Hmm,
And we would actually be there at 7 o'clock in the morning. So and that was
hmm,
every day until the summer. And then our schedule in the summer was a little different because um, sundown happens at a different time.
interesting. And what was the focus kind of this religious hedge fund? Did they have, like, an area that they were kind of focused in, or was it just kinda
They still do. It's a very prominent firm, and they do mortgages for commercial buildings in the city.
hmm, Interesting. So you decide that this isn't for you. How do you end up going to the firm that you found?
So I found the firm through someone that I was talking to, and I was like, "Oh, I'm thinking about moving into real estate." And they're like, "Oh, I know somebody that they have a lot of buildings in New York City. They do management work, but they also do commercial and residential real estate."
Hmm.
And I was like, "Well, that sounds interesting." And so he put me in touch with the CEO, and we were working from the Empire State Building for some time, and then we moved over to the Fuller Building, and we were there for about 2 years before the market crashed, and they ended up closing their doors. And then from there, I had two agents that came to Warburg, and they were like, "You're gonna love this place. You should definitely meet them." And so, really, because relationships for me are so important, and I've always been great about talking to people, and that's really, and when you think about it, I left Wall Street through a relationship, that someone that I met and kept talking about this company, and then I ended up here through two agents. So it's all about building relationships. Look, my days in Wall Street were long, and people weren't busy talking to anyone. There was no water cooler conversation. It was very much like getting the work done. And
Mm.
so for me, I am that kind of person that I'm going to talk to you, and I'm going to strategize with you, and we're going to figure out different ways to do things. And so I ended up getting here through all those connections that I made and built along the way.
Well, you kind of just slipped it in, so I feel like I have to go back. You said you went to a firm, the '08 crisis hit, and that firm went under. Went under. So can you tell me about, like, what do you remember about this whole kind of couple year period? Maybe like as it's beginning, because you're there, you're at the epicenter. You're probably a stone's throw away from all these banks that we know about now. Some of them still there, some of them not still there. What do you remember about that time period?
Well, I kept saying to myself, well, maybe I chose the wrong time to leave Wall Street, because if there's one thing about that firm is that they're well established, right?
Mm.
And it's a hedge fund. And so I thought to myself, well, maybe I just chose the wrong time. And then when I ended up coming to Warburg, I was given the task to close three offices and lay off 20
So
people.
they hired you to
And
fire everybody.
yes, yes. And
Mm.
so I then started thinking to myself, maybe I didn't make the right decision here. But then I figured, look, this is all, it's just a matter of time before we get back on track. And since I know how this stuff works from working there for at Wall Street for so long, I figured, look, we just got to ride the wave.
Right.
And look, in 2009, that was the best year that Warburg had.
Right.
But it ended up working out because we moved quickly. We closed
Mm.
those three offices, we laid off people, we ended up hiring people back as soon as the market started getting better. But I think that the one thing I remember was it was so unstable at the time, and I questioned every decision that I made. And I don't tend to do that. So I questioned whether or not I made the right move at the time.
Mhm. Did you notice the landscape of borrowing, of business, of stocks, bonds, real estate? Did you notice that landscape change a ton? That's sort of what I remember from like COVID is like all the banks and all the lenders, they just changed everything sort of like right at once. And it made our business a lot harder.
Well, so what ended up happening in 2008 that got us in this mess were people that were they were buying homes that they couldn't afford.
Hmm.
And so a lot of those homes went into foreclosure, and that is what started the problem that we had in 2008. And then during COVID, it was a little different. Interest rate were at its lowest, the best.
Hmm.
You could get a 3%, even I know people that got two and a
I
half.
got 2.875
And
on a house right now.
you won't get that, and I
No,
don't think
no.
that that's going to happen in a very long time. And so seeing what and back in 2008, the interesting thing is that a lot of the homes, people that paid $650,000 for a home in 2008 is now worth 400,000,
Hmm.
right? And so a lot of people lost equity. A lot of people, it was just what I considered to be, it was a disaster.
Hmm.
But what got us there was poor lending as well.
Hmm. Yeah.
right? The banks were just as responsible for approving loan mortgages for people that could not afford their homes to begin with. And so, but fast forward to COVID, very different, right? People overpaid for homes, but interest rates were great.
Mm. So, what did the recovery look like for you as you were, at this company? It sounds like from 2009 to like, I don't know, basically 20, I don't want to say it's a straight line up and to the right, but it basically sort of was, right? So, what did 2009 and onward look like for you as you're like, okay, this recession thing, has hit us, this big bubble hit us, but, you're thinking about the future still?
So when I got being in Warburg for so long, I got to really the industry has changed so much, and so much has happened.
Mm
Um, I the skill, that muscle, adapting to things is still important today as it was in 2008. But as I think back to everything that I've seen and done, the one of the most difficult periods for us, something that I had never lived through ever, and that I didn't know how to manage, was COVID.
hmm.
We didn't know what we were up against. We didn't know if we were going to come back to the office. We didn't know what it would look like. There's so much uncertainty. And yes, the market crashed in 2008. And yes, that was an adjustment period. People got laid off, but this was different,
Mm
right? We didn't know what this was. And we didn't know what was going to happen next. And so I have to say, like, as I think about my career over the last 2 decades, COVID, I have to say, was the one time that I just thought about everything, even like how I wanted to live my life.
hmm.
During that time, there was just so many people that were started to reinvent themselves, whether it's now eating at home all the time. Like, I realized a lot of things, and how poorly I was eating, and how I didn't really, and these are simple things, right? It was so much hustle and bustle every day that I felt like I was always rushing to eat my food. And it wasn't until COVID happened that it forced me to actually have to sit and eat my food, and slowly,
Mhm.
that I realized, wow, like, we're living a fast life. We don't appreciate the small things in life. So COVID not only made me rethink about my life on a personal level, but also how we do business. The fact that we were all able to conduct business remotely, we had never done that before,
Mhm.
right? um just rethinking life itself, how we work, how we live, how we enjoy the important moments, all of it.
Mhm.
And so I would say that that was like the most pivotal time in my career.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I also have to imagine you had a whole heck of a lot more responsibility, like, because 'cause you're much farther into your career. Like, when '08 happened, you're kinda just starting at this company, you're like, "Alright, well, if real estate doesn't work out, I've already went from Wall Street to real estate," right? But I'm assuming in 2020, I don't know what your role was, but you're really high up, and now you're responsible for a lot of people and a lot of buildings and a lot of tenants and a lot of, commercial spaces. So you're like, "Geez, this is, like, a lot more pressure specifically on me at this point in time to weather this storm."
Yeah, no. So when I had to make those phone calls to our employees to let them know that we would have to lay them off, it wasn't an easy conversation, because look, that means that they might not have insurance.
Mm,
And what if they get COVID,
right.
right? The pressure was even harder at the time, because now it's people's lives in your hand, and you feel responsible. You are responsible. So it was hard.
How big was the staff at Warburg at that point in time?
We had about
Okay,
25.
okay. It's not the what did you tell me earlier, 350,000? That's so crazy,
No.
right?
No, so Warburg has always been a boutique firm in New York City, which has been great for me. I always say the story. I got on the life train, and by life train I mean I am just focused on, I got married, I got engaged, got married, then had two kids. And so everything else was secondary at that point, even though
Mm,
it was very important because it's a part of me. And I never thought about slowing down even after I had my kids.
mhm,
I never ever thought about staying home or like slowing down. And so this was part of my identity and important for me to just continue to do the things that I normally would. But um I do have to say that I got on the life train and Warburg just kind of like became a part of that.
mm. So talk me through your career growth at Warburg. Sounds like you spent a ton of time there, and if, I'll get to the two like acquisitions or changes because I'd love to hear about how life changes at that point in time. But you sounded like you started kind of on the ground level and you've worked your way up. Tell me
I
about like
I
those
did.
those years in between, like what you're doing and how that growth process looked.
There wasn't a period while I was at Warburg, doing like different things that I felt challenged. And as long as I felt challenged, I was okay with that.
Mm,
And as long as I got to explore buildings, as long as I got to meet people and have the new thing that I'm working on, I was good with that. And I was able to also build my family. So it was the best of both worlds. And so for me, I figured, I was doing operations work, which is really where my focus was. I was building the budget for the company.
mm,
I was, managing the staff and anything related to operations that was on me. And I loved, loved, loved that role. And so I just kind of kept evolving. I then, worked closely with agents, which I absolutely enjoyed doing. And now my role is helping them build their
mm,
business, really helping them with their strategy, but also helping with their sellers and buyers and just leading the firm forward and just innovating as much as I possibly can. So I'm excited of what I did a couple of years ago, even as far as like 6, 7 years ago. I loved what I did then, which was really operations. That has helped me. The numbers and the operations has helped me with my role now. Um, I've recruited in year one as regional vice president, over 30 agents,
mm.
did it again in 2025, ranked top 10 in New York City real estate firms, luxury firms. So we're doing great.
So, did you ever become an agent yourself? Because that's how I feel like most people get into real estate, right? They're like, "I'll become an agent," and then they do the agent thing for a while, and then maybe that's where they stay, or maybe they pivot out and spin into different, areas. Maybe that's just like what I have seen in my area. I'm sure New York City's a ton different. But was that a part of what you ever did, or did you ever have a desire to do that?
No, so I've never sold. I've been on the other side of the table in terms of my own personal transactions, selling and buying, but I've never sold myself. I can pitch all day long. They can take me to an $8 million apartment to a 20 million and I can easily pitch.
Mhm.
But I've never sold, like I've never been an agent. I have my real estate license. I am the broker of record for the
Got
company,
it.
but I've never actually done that kind of field work.
Mhm.
Like I'm not opening the doors for sellers, for buyers. I'm helping them host events to bring buyers to their listing. I am helping with the marketing strategy to sell that apartment and where are we going to place it and that sort of thing. But I'm not. I've never done the agent job.
Mhm. Yeah, I so is the 25 people you have on staff, does that include agents or is there like a
Oh no,
so how
we
many
have a
I was
hundred.
gonna
We have
say, I
yeah,
figured there was a lot of agents.
125.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's a much bigger team than 25 because the 125, I'm sure it's a Pareto distribution, right? 20% are producing a lot, and you have 80% that are like, "Yeah, they do a little bit," and then
Yeah.
a couple percent that don't do anything, right? Um, what does it take in your experience to be successful as a real estate agent? And maybe tell me what it's like being an agent in New York City, because I have to imagine that's quite different from other, metro areas.
Well, it's in New York City, we have 10,000
I was gonna
agents.
say there's got to be a ton of agents.
Right. So like the competition it's why it's the most competitive market,
Mm,
right? Because you are competing everyone that lives in New York City knows a real estate agent.
right, right.
Every dinner party you go to, someone at that dinner party knows a real estate agent. And that's just the way it is. And so you're competing against all of those agents. So it's not an easy being an agent in New York City is not easy. And just because it's a vertical market doesn't mean that there's a lot of money to be made. There is a lot of money to be made, but doesn't mean that you are going to make
Right.
that money.
And is it like a lot of just the allure? Like, well, geez, that condo's for sale for $3 million. So like if I sell it, my commission would be what, 1.5% of that. So it's like, is my math right? 45,000. It's like I'd make 45,000. That's like almost a full-time salary on one deal. Like, uh, you know,
And
I'll
that
do four or
that
five of those and I'll make 200 grand.
exactly. And so that is what's so appealing
Right.
about our market. You figure, if you're thinking, and most agents think, if I do four deals at 5 million, I don't really have to worry about doing another deal, right? And so, or if you just do two at 10 million, which is very common and easy to do here in New York City, then it means that you might not have to do another deal for the rest of the year.
Mm. Yeah, your number you threw out is 25 million. That's 375,000 in commissions if it's 1.5%, which I think that's the common way of doing it. 6% divided by 2 divided by 2, right?
Right, right, right.
Mm. But I have to imagine a lot of people start and never sell a home, or maybe they sell one home to like, their mother-in-law, right? And then it never kind of comes again. I think that's probably true in a lot of markets, to be honest.
Yeah, there's two kinds of agents. There's the one that this is my career, my life, and I am here to build my business. And then there are agents that are here to kind of, they have a great sphere and they have all of these connections and whatever comes their way, but they're not actively seeking the business. It
Mhm.
just comes to them organically. And so there's that kind of agent that kind of like closes a couple of deals in their sleep, are not, marketing themselves. I have agents that don't send a postcard when their deal closes. They don't market themselves and they don't even have social media.
Mm.
And they do a ton of business
Mm.
because they've got the sphere, they've built those relationships, they are part of different organizations and clubs, and they just organically meet people and that give them the business.
Mm. Well, based on my friends that like live in New York City, it feels like it's the type of city where it's like many nights a week we're going out for drinks and like we whatever, we're in a trivia thing or we do dodgeball or whatever. Like there's some sort of event. I mean, I say dodgeball. It seems to me like a lot of it revolves around bars and drinking. I don't know. Um, Maybe I just know the wrong type of people, but so I mean, you can probably build a big sphere if you're like kind of doing that, and it's like every night of the week is some different group.
So I am an Inman contributor. I write for Inman,
Hmm.
and I just wrote an article about how to build your sphere, how to build your business. And one of the key things that you should always do and keep at the forefront is networking is very important in our business. And in New York City, you can find a club. You don't even have to pay to go to a club. You can actually just join a gym. And if you join a gym in the right neighborhood, you will be with all the finance people and you get conversations going. And suddenly, or even if you join CrossFit,
Hmm.
let's say in the financial district
Mm.
where all the finance people go and work out, you're in, right? You suddenly now start those conversation and building your sphere that way. So it doesn't always have to be at a bar. It could always be like, at a doing your nails. If you go to a nail place that is right, in the perfect place where maybe people go during their lunch break to do their nails and you start to have those conversations. The great thing about New York City is that you can build your sphere just from doing simple regular things every week.
Mm. Mm. And is that one of the tell me then, what do you think is like the thing that separates the agents that are, kind of successful from, quite successful? And then I'm sure there's a whole other upper echelon of people. And maybe that's just you're selling more expensive like pieces of real estate. I think that's like a whole like TV show thing. Like, you're selling these $20 million condos and stuff. But what separates those people that are successful versus just doesn't work out for them?
So we always think about what makes a great agent. People that come from an athletic, competitive world tend to do really well because they have the discipline and they have the structure and the self motivation to be able to grind every day. It's really hard when you're not seeing the
Hmm.
results on a daily basis. Like, you have to really talk to yourself in a way to get yourself to keep going. And that's a really hard thing to do. Not everyone is able to do that. And so, look, you can make 100 calls, cold calls, and not get a yes.
Hmm.
And so you have to keep going. And we see a lot of people that come from the sports world that do really well in real estate
Mm.
because of the discipline and how they motivate themselves. But then you also have people that I have an agent that was named Rookie of the Year last year, not from New York City,
Mm.
moved here from Chicago, had a full-time finance job,
Jeez.
and but knew that he wanted to do real estate. And his parents in Chicago were real estate agents. And so he came to New York City grinding. I mean, this guy in 3 months closed 15 rentals.
Jeez.
I mean, so impressive. Like, so in this year, 2025, he ranked among the top 10 agents at CBW. He had a phenomenal year.
Mm.
So he went from doing rentals, now selling properties 3.8, 2.5. That is a story of someone that said, look, this is going to be my career and I am going to do everything in my power. Yes, I'm not from New York City, but I'm going to learn New York City, and people won't even they can't even tell the difference that he's not from here. He
Mm.
goes to every networking event. He
Mm.
is a social butterfly. He is connecting with people. You see him on social media at every gathering, at every networking opportunity, and he's done phenomenal for himself. So, bottom line is, you can do it. You can be successful. You just have to find it in you to work hard and do it.
Have you heard of this book, Going Pro by Stephen Pressfield?
No.
It's basically just kind of what you're talking about. And he just talks about like, the things that the professional does that the amateur does not do. And like, they're very simple. Like the professional stays on the job all day long. Professional doesn't quit. When it's quitting time, the professional quits when the work is done. And in my old office, I had the whole list like printed out. It's like 20 things. But I've heard him. He's a writer, and I heard like Quentin Tarantino talk about the same thing. He's like, for my first couple of movies that I made, like I just would write when I was inspired. And he's like, I had these crazy habits, like I would go have a couple of drinks and then I'd drink 2 or 3 coffees and I'd stay awake all night and I'd write. And he's like, that's how I did like Reservoir Dogs and maybe like one other movie. And he's like, but I just got so much better when I just said like, okay, at 9 a.m. I sit down and I write for 4 hours. And then like I go get lunch. And then at 1 o'clock, I come back and I work for another 4 hours. And it's just like, it's so simple. It's like, yeah, you just treat this like it's a real job, but it's probably true in your industry and our industry and like that industry. It's like you're not treating this like you're a professional. You're treating it like you're an amateur. This is a hobby. This is a side project for you.
Right. Right. I always say that, look, growth will always cost you something, whether it's time, comfort, and sometimes even people. And it means that sometimes you're sacrificing, going out with your friends to build your business. And if that works, imagine later on in life you'll be able to enjoy your friends because you already laid the foundation. And look, And if it feels too expensive, to sacrifice all those things, then you're probably not stretching yourself enough, right? Time, comfort, and people are the things that you will have to sacrifice when you're trying to grow your business. And that is what separates, people, agents, the ones that understand that for the first couple of years, you're going to have to make some significant sacrifices until you build that business.
Yeah, growth and comfort are never found together. That's kind of the way I've heard it said. Um,
Right.
Talk to me about this acquisition from Caldwell Banker. How much were you involved in that process, and was that a good thing for the firm? I know it sounded like it was a long career there and successful, and it was boutique, and you were learning a lot, moving up the ranks. Then Caldwell Banker comes in and just slams in over top of you guys. What was that like?
So for us, it was
Okay.
necessary. The industry was changing, and we all kept seeing it happen right before our eyes.
Okay.
In New York City, there was only one boutique firm left. All the other ones had been acquired.
Hmm.
And so for us, we knew that it was a matter of time. We couldn't compete. We didn't have the global reach. We didn't have the technology. And as things were changing in the industry, there was this big lawsuit that happened. We wouldn't, if we had been independent, we wouldn't have survived,
Mm.
because those legal fees that all real estate companies, not just one or two, had to pay were significant. And so we saw the writing on the wall. And when we got the offer from Coldwell Banker, it was really great offer, if I say so myself. Like, it was phenomenal, but what came with it was even better. We have this powerhouse behind us, so we were able to stay boutique, yet have the technology, the global reach, the network. And so it was beneficial for our agents and everyone, right? So Coldwell Banker didn't have a presence in New York City. Suddenly now they do.
Mm.
And now we had access to all of these resources. So it was the best decision for the company, because we didn't have those things, right? We had to do partnerships with, Forbes Global Properties in order for us to have that global network.
Mm.
But now it's meaningful. You go to any country and there's a Coldwell Banker office, and
Mhm.
you could just pop in, meet the agents, build that referral business, and a real business, actually, not something that, like, okay, well, if somebody is looking for something, then we'll reach out to you like the other stuff was. But this is, it's real. And it really has transformed our business. The network has been great.
Mm. Yeah, I met this guy. He was a real estate guy in Florida, and he was like, "Alex, you should get your real estate license." I was like, "Dude, I'm like way too busy." He's like, "No, no, no. The reason you should get it is so that you can just refer business like down to me in Florida." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Well, if you're not a real estate agent, like I can't pay you a commission for a referral." He's like, "So you just need to get your real estate license, and then you pass me business." And I can't remember what he told me the split was. And he's like, I'm selling these, they're not $1 million properties, but they're $600,000, $800,000, maybe $1 million properties in Florida. And he's like, I'll just be throwing you money every, couple of months when you know somebody. I'm like, I don't know hardly anybody in Florida, dude. What are you talking about? But I thought that was really interesting that he said that you get your real estate license and then you do the referral. So I'm wondering if that was like a big portion of it, that it's like, hey, our client's in New York City, but they want to move to Miami, but like we don't really have any like anyone to give them to. I'm sure we could find somebody, but like it's unreliable, sort of.
So I'll give you an example. If you had your real estate license in New York City and one of your friends was looking for a rental, or decides, I want to buy, this is the perfect time for me to buy, you would get a referral fee for that.
Mm.
So there's like a lot of different ways that agents can create a little cash cow without having to actually do the work. And this is one way. I have an agent that has a referral to Dubai. She has another referral to Arizona.
Mm.
And so that is the power of the brand, the networking, right? And just being smart of your business. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be like you've got the exclusives or you have the buyer. It could just be referral based.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So when you guys did this transaction, were you actively courting like buyers? And maybe just talk me through like what your role was in that process. Um, and I know you said that you thought it was a really good deal. How did you guys eventually come to the conclusion like this is the right thing for us?
So we were approached by all the other companies.
Okay.
Every company reached out to
The
us,
big
right? We were
ones
the
in New York
last.
City, sort of.
So like Berkshire Hathaway wanted to also break into the New York City market. And the best, everybody knows, the easiest and best way to do that is by acquiring a boutique
Right.
firm.
Makes
And
sense.
so they had approached us as well. We were approached by a lot of different companies that wanted to break into the New York City market.
I have to imagine that that's sort of like a relatively reliable acquisition, right? Like, okay, you guys did whatever. You have 125 agents last year. I don't know, fake numbers. You did 100 million in total deals. Like, you'll probably be able to do that. You're just kind of changing the name. Like, there's no real like new systems. It's all just like people on the ground talking to other people, getting the deal. Like if I change the name from Warburg to like Berkshire Hathaway, like you wouldn't assume that much would change, right? So that is interesting how
Right.
reliable that is. That's like kind of like buying an insurance business, I think. Like, oh, Alex sold his insurance business to Kevelyn. As long as she's normal, like sure, I'll keep on doing my insurance with you.
Yeah. And look, in our business, because the agents are building their brand, their own brand,
Right.
there people sellers and buyers are not necessarily coming to us because we're Coldwell Banker Warburg.
Yeah.
They're coming because they know this person and they trust them and they know they're going to give them the best advice and they're going to get them the most for their list for their property, right? People choose the agent they want to work with before even looking into what company they work for.
Right. That makes sense. My friend here in town, I wouldn't care. If he's like, "Oh, I don't work for that agency anymore." I'd be like, "I don't care." Like as long as you're
Right.
still
I'll
working.
follow
Yeah, as
you.
long as you're still working, dude,
Exactly.
like, let's buy the house.
It's like me and my hairstylist, right? She can work for, whatever brand. I follow her everywhere she goes. I could care less
Right.
who she affiliates with or who she works for. As long as she's happy and I can, still do my hair with her, I'll follow her.
Mm. So all the other agencies kind of approached you, but you were saying no. You're saying, "No, we wanna stay independent. We wanna stay, who we are."
So yeah, so the CEO at the time, he basically was like, look, I want to make sure I sell to the right company, and Coldwell Banker just felt
Okay.
right. I was instrumental in doing all the due diligence, and really I being part of that process from beginning to end.
Mm,
And then after that, really ensuring that all of our marketing, our systems, accounting, and all of that was integrated into Coldwell Banker. And that was my role, my focus at the time
mhm,
was making sure that we integrated with Coldwell Banker at the time.
mm. That's probably fun. You got to see, like, the inner workings of this deal. You got to be a part of it. You got to vet the deal, sort of, it sounds like. You were there as the decision was getting made, and then sounds like the CEO was like, "Great, now go make it happen. Go put it all together."
Right. Yeah, no, it was a fun experience to be able to see that, and to be a part of it, and to see where we are today.
So the integration then was relatively successful because I know sometimes, well, not sometimes, a lot of times when companies buy another company, the integration is a failure. And then, 4 or 5, we're actually dealing with it right now with a big client. They got acquired and their sales have just been like down, 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 down every month, basically, after the purchase. And a lot of the people who are on the team, they fled because they're like, gosh, this new corporate structure, we hate it. Um, so, they might come back in and buy that company back. I don't know. That happens. But was the integration then pretty smooth?
No, we had $3 million in gross commission walk out the door 2 days later.
They just didn't like the firm. They were just like, "Nah, we don't want to do this."
Yeah,
Hmm.
right.
Interesting. Now, how big is that? Oh, gross commission. Okay. I was gonna say, well,
Hmm.
gross sale. I'm like, is that big compared? But gross commission,
Yeah,
that's a
no,
lot.
no,
That's a
come in.
lot.
Hmm.
So, how do you deal with that? Did the you and the CEO need to try to put a game plan together to avoid any further commission?
Yeah, yeah. So we ended up, doing what we probably should have done from the beginning, right? Which was take care of the people that were here. But in hindsight, that's poorly handled,
Mhm.
right? Lesson to learn from.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, like there were some. It was hard to recover from that, and it took some time for us to recover.
When you say that that gross commission was lost, was that through agents who just went, "We're
Agents,
piecing. We don't wanna do Caldwell. We
right?
liked it previously, but we don't wanna do this." And then ostensibly, they're taking their book of business and they're taking, like, deals
Correct.
in progress essentially and saying, "Hey, we're hitting a pause on that. Wait till I get set up at my new agency, and we'll finish this thing out."
You got it.
Mm.
Yeah, that's exactly what
So
happened.
what was the beef of those agents? Was it messaging?
No, it was more so that Coldwell Banker didn't have a presence here, and they felt like their buyers and sellers would not want to be a part of a company that doesn't have um, any history in New York City, even though Warburg did.
Mm. I mean, Coldwell Banker's huge. Like, I'm not gonna be, like, not confident that they won't know how to, like, sign the paperwork.
Right. And so people are and in New York City, people are big on brands, right? They stick, and most people are like that. It's like, what's your favorite car brand?
Mm.
Like, what car would you say to yourself, like, no matter what, this is my car. This is the brand I like the most. Everybody has one of those.
Mhm.
And so for those agents, they just could not see themselves aligned with the brand.
Mm. Is it like a status thing? Like
Yeah, so they feel like Coldwell Banker, and look, Coldwell Banker has been around for a long time. Okay. It is not because Coldwell Banker is known for being unethical. All the contrary. They're known for being ethical. They're known for their history. They're known for, their expertise. It was more so that they're known for being a suburban company, right? Like, they're sort of like, okay, well, I mean, you find a Coldwell Banker in, I don't know, like Connecticut,
Uh-huh.
Boston, right? They're really strong there. And people are like, well, not in New York City, right? So that was mainly what they had an issue with.
Mm. Yeah, when I think of Caldwell Banker, I think of I think I've seen the picture of Caldwell and Banker from, like, way back when. It's just like, older white dudes in a suit, it's like, just maybe a little I don't wanna be, rude, but, like, a little stuffy, like, these guys probably went to Harvard, or probably went to, like, MIT or something. That's my impression of Caldwell Banker. So I'm wondering if, like, your previous brand was, like, chic, hip, like, really kind of, on trend, and then people were like, "I was just a mismatch now here between, like, my expectations of our brand and what they are in the future." Am I hitting it or
So
not right?
no, so Warburg was very much old money, elite
I see.
status, club like, right? Not everyone could work at
I
Warburg,
see.
right?
It's like buying a
It had that
Rolex,
reputation.
not for everybody.
Right, right,
Interesting.
right.
So maybe people thought that Caldwell wasn't quite as elite. You've gone
Exactly.
mainstream. Okay, that's interesting.
Right, right.
Interesting. So, how do you kinda rebuild after that?
So it hasn't been
Mm,
easy. It's 4 years since the acquisition, and we've had to put a lot of work into brand visibility, connecting with people, and really just putting the brand out there to let them even know that we're here,
mhm,
right? Like, Coldwell Banker is in New York City, and so and that we are global luxury, and so that was another piece of it. It hasn't been an easy trajectory for us. It has been a lot about, like, just throwing everything at the wall to help the name in New York City.
mm. Now, let me ask a really stupid question. Um, why did you all feel the need to change the name of the firm from, like, Warburg to Coldwell Banker Warburg? Was that, like, a condition of Coldwell Banker? Don't they just want the money at the end of the day, right? Don't they just want the money to flow up? Or maybe now, knowing what you know, would you have just said, like, "Let's keep the name. Yes, we'll keep being an affiliate, and you guys will sign the brokerage documents and everything, but we don't need to change the brand here."
Yeah, I think in hindsight, that probably would have been a better way to go.
Hmm.
There are companies that have been acquired that have remained, with their name, and that probably could have been maybe year one and two,
Yeah.
keep the Warburg name and then transition to Coldwell Banker. But that we didn't think all of those things were going to happen.
Interesting. So then, Caldwell Banker, it sounds like, then rolled up again to what was the name of the company you told me? Compass?
Was now we're Compass International Holdings. It's our holding company,
Got it.
and so now we're part of Compass, which is known for being hip, you know, like that great marketing, diversity. Just it's they are known for being um, the it company.
Ooh, the It Company. Interesting. So did life change much when Compass, came? So did Caldwell Banker sell up to Compass, or like how did that work?
No, so every brand has remained independent, and they just closed on the merger 2 weeks ago. So
Oh,
it's fairly new for
I
us. There's
see.
still a lot of things happening. Compass has the best real estate technology out there,
Mm,
so we're excited to have the technology as well. But we haven't. Every brand will just stay independent, like Corcoran, Sotheby's. Everybody will remain with their name and their brand, and then Compass is Compass, and the holding company now is Compass International.
interesting. Yeah, I'd be interested to hear like how, because you've done a couple of mergers now in the last handful of years, and I'm sure life from like way back in the beginning to life, now, or what it's going to look like maybe in 26 into the future will probably be a whole heck of a lot different.
Yeah, yeah. I look. I think a year from now we're gonna look different. Things are going to probably be a little different, but that's what happens with acquisitions and change. You
Mm.
know.
So where do you see maybe the real estate market going? There's a lot of talk about, the fear of these big companies buying up, houses in the United States. And maybe Trump's going to make that illegal. I'm not sure. Like is that something that you're seeing affect you? I mean, maybe you're not buying single family houses, you're doing like luxury
No.
condos and stuff, but do you have a thought on that or where the market goes in the future here for the United States?
So I think we have a housing crisis, and here in New York City, it's been a problem for some
Right.
time. But there are layers to that. So in New York City, there's a lot of red tape for developers, for landlords,
Hmm.
and there's a lot of things that need to get fixed there. We can't just do rent stabilization for people and landlords not be able to afford to fix the
Right, you got
buildings,
Zoran
right?
coming in, he's gonna, fix everything, right?
And everything's going to be free. There's just a lot of things that we hear that are not, it just won't work.
Mhm,
But there are layers to things that need to get fixed. There's a lot of red tape. If you only knew how long it takes developers and even landlords to just do simple things
mhm,
for the building, that could easily just be sped up, and the faster they fix their buildings, the faster they can rent it to people.
mhm.
And so the laws here are changing, and it's ongoing, but it hasn't been for the greater good right now.
When you say it's not for the greater good, um, what do you mean by that? Just not fast enough, not really something that's actually gonna bring costs down?
So last year, sometime in August, our rent laws for agents changed.
Okay.
So that was a big deal because the way agents now get paid is completely different. The landlord has to pay the agent, right? And so people thought to themselves, wait a minute, if I'm renting an apartment, I no longer have to pay a commission up front. I just have to worry about my security deposit and my rent. But the problem is that the landlord has to pass that cost to someone.
Right,
The landlord is going to hire an agent. Who do you think is going to pay the agent?
right, of course, the renter
Obviously,
pays it.
the rent is going to go up. And so now you're paying, instead of paying 2,300, now you're paying possibly like 2,900, 3,000,
Mm,
because the cost of the agent is now baked into your rent.
mm. What?
But they passed a law thinking that they would be helping renters.
Yeah, I was gonna ask what was the logic there that like the landlord the hypothetical is the landlord will just eat that cost, so then the tenant is not paying a new cost when they move in?
Correct. So now the tenant doesn't have to pay the real estate agent. The landlord is going to pay the real estate agent, but what they don't understand is that that expense someone's going to have to pay for.
Hmm, interesting. Doesn't seem like rooted in like business reality.
Right. And then the other thing that happens is, let's just say the landlord is like, look, I don't want to pay for an agent now. That gets tricky because now the landlord is going to take him longer to rent the apartment,
Mhm.
because the work that the agent does, which is like running the credit report and making sure that the applicant qualifies to live in that apartment, that has, the money to pay for it, that work, now the landlord is either going to have to hire someone or do themselves. So that slows the process of renting that apartment. More months, more days that apartment's going to sit there vacant.
Mhm. Well, right. It also seems like, and I have a couple rentals. It's not a big part of what I do, but like what I've always heard is there's a layer of sort of security there if you have an agent come in and get the tenant for you, because then it's not like, well, why didn't you, rent to fill? It's like, well, I don't know. I don't like black people, so I didn't rent to fill. It's like you just get an agent and be like, hey, just pick the best tenant for me, and then you're kind of out of it. So that's a sticky situation for the landlord because it's like, well, now I'm sort of incentivized to do it myself, but then there's like this back end, concern there that I want to avoid.
Right.
Interesting.
And so, like, things like that, laws like that have been passed, along with all of the other stuff happening in terms of like fixing the housing crisis. It's going to take a long time before any of that is works.
hmm And do you think that people? I don't know anything about New York politics. But do you think people were just excited by Zoran just because he's like, I'll freeze the rents, and a lot of people were just like, yeah, that's great. I hate it when my rent goes up every month. Whereas me, I'm
Yeah,
like,
no, like,
that we've tried price control. This doesn't work.
yeah, so it's like things like, oh, free buses and free this and free that. And the reality of it is that that's not how it works. And, so what ended up happening, the MTA here raised the fare, like literally 2 months after he stepped into like, once the announcement was made and he won, it was like, oh, free buses. And then MTA is like, well, wait a minute, we're going to raise the fare. So now you're going to be paying like $5. And everybody's like, wait a minute, we thought this would be free. And they're like, no, that just doesn't work that way, because the MTA needs to, fix some of the issues they've got. Right? Who's going to fix the problems on the buses and the roads and the train system and the tracks? Right? Where's that going to come from?
Right. Well, we're gonna tax the billionaires, Kevelyn. Duh. Those people have so much money that they don't need it. We can just peel a little bit off of them, and then they'll give it to us so that we can, you know, live a little better.
Yeah, and so there's this whole thing that, um billionaires are leaving New York City. It hasn't quite happened yet. I think that everybody's waiting to see, what continues to happen here. But, it's like what's happening in LA. We're all watching what's happening there. Google, they moved to Miami. Everybody's they're having a mass exodus over there. All all the billionaires are definitely leaving LA and going to Miami. So we're seeing it right before our eyes.
Isn't there like some enormous percentage of like New York's like tax base that comes from like the ultra wealthy too? Like they have like a disproportionately high percentage of money coming from the ultra wealthy. I'm trying to like look up,
Yeah.
some stats on that.
Yeah, no, it is true. And so imagine if we didn't have
I
that
found it. The
anymore.
top 1% of New York City income tax filers, many millionaires and billionaires, paid about 40% of the city's personal income tax revenue. So the top 1% pays 40%. And like this is just like a small tangent, but like I love it when people are like, we want the billionaires to pay their fair share. And it's like, Well, what do you mean by fair share? Because like I can show you the tax tables. The top 1% pays like 25% of all the taxes in the United States. The top 10% pays like 40%. The top 20% pays more than 50%. And then like the top 40% pay like 95% or something like that of the total tax revenue. So it's like, what do we mean when we say fair share? Because to me, fair is like I earned 1% of all the income, like I should pay 1% of all the taxes. But it doesn't really work that way. In New York, it looks like even worse than that.
Yeah, and so to say that, which is the battle they're having right now, is the governor is saying we're not doing that. We're not taxing them. And so and Soron is saying, well, yeah, we have to tax them. And so that is really um the battle they're having. And look, it'll be interesting to see what happens if that goes through, which I don't believe it is.
Isn't there like also like kind of a like a two like two group system in New York where it's like New York City and everybody in New York City and then like everyone else in the state? It's like, hey, New York City doesn't speak for us, all right? Like, if I earn a good living like outside of New York City, I'm like, I'm not a millionaire. You guys aren't taking 50% of my check because like you
Yeah.
need to pay for, high rises in the city.
So New York City ends up paying and supporting other parts of the state.
Mm, okay.
Okay, you have places like Rochester and Buffalo, which are considered um, where there's the most poverty in the state are in those
Hmm.
areas. And so New York City helps support a lot of the things in other parts of the state.
Mm,
And so it's not just in New York City that those taxpayers are paying for things, it's outside of New York City as well.
interesting. Well, Kevin, what's next for you? Where do you see yourself going in the next handful of years? It sounds like you've had a ton of success. You've had a lot of fun. You've built a family. Um, what are you hoping to accomplish in this kind of next chapter?
So in this next chapter, I'm still trying to decide what that's going to look
All right,
like.
all right.
I have a few things in mind, but I'm trying to decide what that is going to look like.
Well, it sounds like you have an entrepreneurial spirit. You were telling me about your little side project that you had during COVID, which
Yep,
sounded like it was, pretty dang successful. So,
it was. I'm going to have to do it again. I just feel like it's calling me.
well, you give me a buzz before you do. I'll tell you my. You've already sounds like had 2 wins on there, so don't let me tell you, "Oh, no, this idea is no good. It's not gonna work." Um, but I definitely would love to, help out in any way, shape, or form. And very cool if you have other projects that you're excited about.
Thank you. And thank you for having me, and I will for sure give you a call for this next thing that I will be working
All
on.
right. Where can people find you if they need to buy a house in New York City or New York State otherwise, or anywhere in the world? It sounds like you've got connections all over the world. Where can they find you, and where can they keep up with all the stuff that you do publicly?
Sure. So if you're on social media, my Instagram handle is Kevelyn Guzman. If you're on Facebook, it's the same, Kevelyn Guzman. TikTok, the same. And if you want to email me, it's Kevelyn.Guzman@cbrealty.com.
Just got all those Kevelyn Guzmans across the board. Beautiful. You
Yeah.
got a good, unique name. I'm Alex Johnson, so there's no getting that tag anywhere. So, all right. Thank you so much, Kevelyn. Have a great night and be
You're
be safe in
welcome. You
the
too.
snowstorm.
You too. Thank
Thank
you.
you.